6:31. Hi, Amelia and Matt. Do you think it's okay if we get started? I can't remember how it. Okay. And we're good in the back room. Yep. Okay. All right. Well, welcome everybody. We're going to call tonight's meeting, July 11th Planning Commission meeting, to order. And we begin with a roll call vote, or roll call, excuse me. Do you need a minute? Are we good?
Commissioner Haley. Commissioner Hunt.
Here.
Commissioner Basket.
Here.
Commissioner Choi.
Here.
And Vice Chair Mullane.
Here. Thanks. Thanks, Ben. On to the next item on our agenda, which is the approval of the agenda. The agenda has been posted in public places and it's out there, but this evening we approve it just to make sure there aren't any last minute changes or updates. So with that, I'd take a motion for the approval of the agenda.
Move approval.
Second. Thank you. A move and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, motion passes. On to approval of the March meeting minutes. Does anybody have any comments on those minutes? All right, seeing none, my only question on those, and apologize for not asking earlier, it said that the meeting was electronic, and is that right? That meeting was electronic? Oh, maybe it was when we had the snowstorm. Okay, all right. That was the only little thing I was like, gosh, it seems like we were. So, all right, so seeing no changes, does anybody want to make a motion to approve the March meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the March minutes.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Choi.
Second.
All right, second, Commissioner Basket. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, now we're on to the item in the agenda where we take public comment from you and also from the folks here in the room, and then for any attendees that are attending our meeting electronically, and for items, thank you, for items that are not on the agenda. I'm standing in for our chair tonight, so the rest of the commission is giving me a hand here. So looks like you may all be here for items that are on the agenda. All right, and we're not seeing a hand up from our online attendees. So we're going to move on to the new business items. So now is the time when I get to read the script. Is that right? Okay. I will now open the public hearing on a request for a minor subdivision and easement vacation for 171 and 187 Harper Street. The purpose of the hearing is to receive evidence regarding the application materials and provide a public forum for all interested parties who wish to comment on this request before the Planning Commission. The procedure for the public hearing will be as follows. First, there will be a presentation and testimony by city staff, followed by questions from the Planning Commission to staff. Next, we will have a presentation and testimony by the applicant, followed by questions from the Planning Commission to the applicant. After these two presentations, members of the public who are here or who have joined this meeting by computer or telephone may speak regarding the application. Anyone who would like to speak is asked to use the raise hand function if participating by computer, or *9 if calling in by telephone. And I would add, for those here in the room, you can fill out a card and we will be glad to hear you here. The Planning Commission may ask questions of those testifying for clarification or for additional information to better understand the comments being provided. However, the main purpose of the public comment period is to receive public testimony and is not a forum for debate or dialogue concerning the application. The applicant and staff will then be allowed to make a closing statement. I will then close the public hearing, and no further testimony or other evidence will be received unless the commission decides to reopen the hearing. The planning commission will discuss the matter and may take some kind of action. Public hearings are recorded for the public record. All testimony must be presented after stating your full name and address, the city that you reside in, and the commission secretary swears you in. Does anyone participating in this hearing object to the procedure I've described? All right.
Vice Chair, I have one.
Oh, yes.
Acting Chair.
Yes.
I have one comment. I just want to state for the record that I am a resident of Ward 1 and I live in the Parkwood neighborhood. I've reviewed the application and I do not feel that I have any conflict of interest.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Do we have proper notification?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Now, are there any other planning commission disclosures? Nope. Okay, great. On with the public hearing. Take it away, staff member Brackett.
Thank you very much. Okay, so this is an application to adjust the location of a lot line between two properties on Harper Street. It's reviewed through the minor subdivision process. So the current plat is the amended plat of Parkwood filing number 2. The request is to move the lot line, which is shown in yellow, and then the associated easements, and then move it to the red orientation. That current lot line that's on an angle followed a water line easement that's now been vacated. And so through this, no new lots are created, no change in density, anything like that. So there's one modification, but otherwise it meets all of the requirements of Title 16. It does not impact any comp plan or other adopted policies. And then the easement vacation was reviewed by Public Works, and the updates that are in the plat were requested by them and reviewed and approved. So that one modification is to allow a lot size of 6,000 square feet where 7,000 is required in this zone district. The unique circumstance here is that this lot size already exists and the actual total combined lot size of both lots is under 14,000, so there's kind of really no way for there to be a lot that meets the minimum lot size. Again, there's no increase in density and it maintains the two lots, maintains the homes, maintains the orientation. And so staff finds that it does not alter the character of the area. So I'm going to correct a few clerical errors in the staff report. My apologies, but staff is recommending approval of Resolution 7, Series 2024, which recommends approval of the first replat of the amended plat of Parkwood filing number 2 and the easement vacation with no conditions. In the report and in the packet, there were some minor edits, but those don't need to be approved by condition. They'll just be cleaned up before City Council, and the applicant has that already well in hand. So happy to answer any questions, and then the applicant does have a presentation.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions? Yes.
I don't think I saw this, but any other utilities affected?
No, other than the ones along the actual property lines. I don't think so.
Thank you.
All right. Seeing no other questions, thank you. We welcome the applicant. Would you like to make a presentation? Great. Welcome.
Okay.
And one of the things we ask the members of the public is just to let us know your residence, city of residence.
Yes, so I am Thomas Langer. I currently live in Lafayette.
Okay.
So I'm at 17767 Lafayette,
Okay.
Poppy Court in Lafayette. But my wife and I are the owners of 171 Harper.
Okay.
So one of the two adjacent houses
Great. Thanks.
here. So thank you, Commission, for hearing. This is the first time I've presented, so we didn't know exactly what to provide. There's already been a lot of good context provided, but what we understand now, some of this is recreating history, is back when these two lots were created, they decided that the property line would follow this water line that was between the houses, so a diagonal property line, which is kind of odd, but that's where it ran. and so that's where they put the property line. Back in what we believe is about 1977, there was an agreement between the two property owners to swap the land on each side of this particular situation. So basically, they agreed that they were going to straighten the property line, make it perpendicular, so a like-for-like swap. And basically, that's the way it was established through the period when we, the owners of 187 Harper are here as well. We both bought our homes in 2008. During both of our separate and independent closing processes, it was never disclosed that the property line was actually diagonal between the two homes, and was only discovered when Joel and Susan, who own the house next door, were contemplating a project addition to their house, and it was flagged that there was an easement running through. And so we had no idea of this situation. There was some documentation and record of it. But basically, since that time, we've spent 3 years and about $8,000 or $10,000 trying to correct what we believe is now kind of the de facto property line that's existed for 45 years, long before we purchased, and kind of is shown in the map that that it's been established, it is established. And we were talking before this meeting it's really just trying to get the record straight, because now we know it's not right, and we wouldn't want this to be an issue for somebody in the future. And so we're just trying to, one, get the records correct to what we think is reality, and then to make formal the line, the replat, and the water line vacation.
Thank you, Mr. Langer. We appreciate you bringing this forward to us this evening. Are there any questions for the applicant? All right, thanks. All right. Yep, now welcome. Yeah.
I'm Joel Hayes, 187 Harper,
Great.
Louisville.
Great.
Sorry, I don't know if I needed to sign up. I just want to support what Tom Langer said. We had no idea that this was an issue until we talked to an architect.
Yeah.
And as I understand it, the land transaction was fine. They properly recorded that. We own what we thought we owned. It's just it was never replatted with the city. And consequently, when the city got rid of its, abandoned that property line, it wasn't properly vacated as well. So we just want to get all that taken care of, so this isn't an issue for anybody else going forward. I'm happy to answer any questions as well.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Any questions? We're good? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Now would be the time for us to open this item up to other public comment. We've heard from the applicants. Anybody else want to comment on this? And again, if you're online, let us know with a raised hand function. Yeah, there's just two. Yeah. All right. Well, seeing none, let's see. As we work through our script here, you have another chance to offer any comments, any closing comments, or are you good? Okay. All right. On to staff. Any closing comments? Nope. Okay. All right. Any questions from us at this point? Nope. We're good. All right. I will now close the public hearing, and the planning commissioners will deliberate on the evidence presented. During deliberations, no further public comment or other testimony or evidence will be received. Anybody want to begin? All right. Commissioner Choi.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate both the collaboration of the adjacent neighbors, property owners, as well as the clear and concise summary and recommendation from staff. I see no reason why not to clean up what is already established by de facto occupancy, and I would be in support of this.
I'm also in support of this. It really just seemed like a matter of cleanup, and it's unfortunate that you had to spend the money to do that.
What they said. I'm supportive of this.
Yeah, everything, I agree with everything that's been said also. It's worth saying that this really has no effect on, anywhere else in the community or neighborhood. It's been that way for longer than most people have been in Louisville. So, I mean, very straightforward.
Yeah, I completely agree and agree with the staff analysis in the staff report, and so I'll be in support as well. Do we have a motion?
Chair, I'll make a motion to approve Resolution Number 7, Series 2024, resolution recommending approval of the first replat of the amended plat of Parkwood Filing Number 2 and easement vacation.
Thank you. Do we have a second? All right, thank you. All right, I think we usually do these through a roll call vote.
Yep.
All right,
Commissioner Mahaley.
Yes.
Commissioner Hunt.
Yes.
Commissioner Buskett.
Yes.
Commissioner Choi.
Yes.
And Vice Chair Mullane.
yes. All right, thank you. I think your next stop is probably City Council, so good luck. Yep. All right. I believe I have to read this yet again. All right, so now, yeah. I have to read the public, yeah, okay. All right, now we will open the public hearing on a request for a final planned unit development and final plat for 421 and 533 East Street. The purpose of the hearing is to receive evidence regarding the application materials and provide a public forum for all interested parties who wish to comment on this request before the Planning Commission. The procedure for the public hearing will be as follows. First, there will be a presentation and testimony by city staff, followed by questions from the Planning Commission to staff. Next, we will have a presentation and testimony by the applicant, followed by questions from the Planning Commission to the applicant. After these two presentations, members of the public who have joined this meeting by computer or telephone or are here in the room may speak regarding the application. Anyone who would like to speak is asked to use the raise hand function if participating by computer or *9 if calling in by telephone. The Planning Commission may ask questions of those testifying for clarification or for additional information to better understand the comments being provided. However, the main purpose of the public comment period is to receive public testimony and is not a forum for debate or dialogue concerning the application. The applicant and staff will then be allowed to make a closing statement. I will then close the public hearing, and no further testimony or other evidence will be received unless the Commission decides to reopen the hearing. The Planning Commission will discuss the matter and may take some kind of action. Public hearings are recorded for the public record. All testimony must be presented after stating your full name and the address or the city that you reside in. Does anyone participating in this hearing object to the procedure I've described? Seeing none, do we have proper notification?
Yes, notice has been satisfied.
All right, thank you. Do we have any Planning Commission members that have any disclosures with this item? All right, seeing none, we will proceed with the public hearing. Go ahead, Planner Post.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Matt Post, Senior Planner on the Community Development Team. This evening, I'll be presenting Resolution 8, Series 2024, recommending approval of a final subdivision plat, final planned unit development, and easement vacation for 15 single-family homes and 21 townhome units on a 3.6 acre parcel at 421 and 553 East Street. Or I'm sorry, 533 East Street, my apologies. You'll also have to, I apologize as well, I spent all day updating this presentation and it didn't save. So if I take my time through it, that would be why. So as stated, the development proposal includes 36 dwelling units consisting of 15 single-family homes and 21 townhomes with associated site improvements. The Planning Commission recommended approval of the preliminary plat and PUD for this project on October 12th of 2023, with the City Council approving on November 28th of 2023. No significant changes have occurred between the preliminary PUD and plat and the final PUD and plat, notwithstanding some accessibility changes to the single-family homes on the north side. I'll let the applicant speak to that a little bit. And then some public works review that occurred concurrently with our requirement for construction documents that are required as part of a final plat review. So no significant changes between preliminary and final at this point. The subject site is roughly, subject site roughly 3.6 acres in size. It is currently unplatted, and so this plat will formally subdivide the property. The properties are bound on the north by the Pine Street Plaza, currently zoned commercial community, to the west by the BNSF Railroad right-of-way, and then on the south by single-family dwellings zoned medium-density residential. The site is also zoned medium-density residential. The existing conditions on the property include 10 single-family homes with various accessory structures that were originally built or relocated to the site between 1900 and the 1960s. The City of Louisville Historic Preservation Commission did approve the demolition of all of these structures in July of 2023. So again, moving on to the plat, the development proposal includes those 36 residential lots and 8 outlots. Those 36 residential lots, again, include those 15 single-family homes. You can see those on the north and south side of the plat as depicted here. Then those 21 townhomes internal to the site, with a number of those homes actually street-facing directly adjacent to East Street. The outlots are labeled A through H on the plat, and they contain private roadways, parking areas, common open space, utilities, and drainage and detention areas. The easternmost portion of the plat, directly adjacent to East Street, will include a right-of-way dedication to the city. That will accommodate a new detached sidewalk directly adjacent to the site. The 15% public land dedication that would be required with any new residential development is proposed as a fee in lieu by the applicant. There are obviously a number of parks within 1 mile walking distance here, and then they're within a quarter mile of downtown Louisville. Again, this was approved on the preliminary PUD as well with the 15 for the fee in lieu with the 15% public land dedication. There is also open space provided on site for residents. There's an existing 10-foot sanitary sewer easement that belonged to the Louisville Sanitation District that the city of Louisville is successor to. That easement is requested to be vacated. That would be approved by City Council. Staff has no objections to the vacation request, and new utilities will be established in outlots A and C to service the site. And so drainage access utility, again, in outlots A and C, and the details of those proposed easements are on the plat and in your packet. Part of the subdivision request here includes modifications from the applicant to accommodate the development. The first modification is for block length. There is a provision in the subdivision regulations that require a minimum 400-foot distance between blocks. Obviously very, very large development patterns there. The applicant is requesting a modification to 193 feet. You can see this measured out in red. Other modifications relate directly to lot depth and frontage. You can see that highlighted on lot 17. So the applicant is requesting a lot width minimum of 19 feet for the townhomes. That's relatively standard for townhome developments. Instead of a 50-foot requirement, which is in the subdivision ordinance. Again, this is kind of a conflict we see between the zoning ordinance and the subdivision ordinance, where the subdivision ordinance is regulating density, and so where the modifications are reasonable to permit townhome developments. And they're also requesting a modification to a depth to width ratio requirement that exists in the subdivision ordinance. A depth to width ratio of 5.2 instead of 2.5, and we'll discuss those modifications later on in the presentation. And so again, 36 units as proposed. You can see the single family units in yellow on the north and south side of the site, and then the townhome units in blue central to the site. A 26-foot wide private street loops around the site, providing access to all units, and includes an alley providing access to detached garages to the townhome units. Those are 12 townhome units that are accessed by the alley. And then you can see the other townhome units also include access to a 2-car detached garage. On the other side, there are pedestrian walks internal to the private drive that connect out to East Street. Those are 5-foot wide walks, which would be standard for our circulation standards.
Could you highlight those, please? I was having trouble
Yes.
looking for that in this drawing. Thank you.
Here, you can, yep, exactly. And then on top right here, that's exactly right. And then they're directly adjacent to parallel parking stalls as well. We can note here as well while we're looking at the site plan. So every dwelling unit includes a 2-car garage, either attached or detached. The site is also improved with 24 visitor parking spaces spread throughout the site. The single-family detached homes include 2 proposed models. Both models are 2 stories with below-grade basements. You can see the graphic on the left shows the distribution of models. And again, I can let the applicant speak to, so what changed was on the north side. I believe the models went type 1, type 2, type 1, type 2, type 1. I believe, again, because of accessibility standards that we would require through the building code, some modifications had to change. So I'll let the applicant speak to that a little bit. There is a optionality provided in a material palette. Again, that's in your packets, and that provides variety in the overall elevations through the site. The Type 1 models shown in orange here have a 1,500 square foot footprint. And again, there are multiple material palettes for those Type 1 models. The Type 2 models that are shown in blue have a 1,978 square foot footprint. And again, those include various material optionalities as well. The townhomes are a mix of 3-unit and 4-unit townhomes with a Type A design and a Type B design. The units are 3 stories in height with a garden deck, with a garden level basement space and rooftop decks. The Type A units are designed with a gable roof form. The Type B units include a flat roof design to break up the massing and the overall architectural appearance of those units. Again, these do include detached garages with private yards. Material optionality is presented by the applicant, and those are detailed in the PUD exhibit. The applicant is requesting height waivers for these townhomes, and we'll discuss that in later slides. But again, you can see the types distributed in both orange and blue, the 4-unit and 2-unit townhomes. Landscaping is proposed and includes various low-water shrubs, grasses, and perennials, and trees in both common areas and fenced and unfenced areas. A total of 61 trees are proposed on the site. And again, this landscape plan actually gives you a good idea of where some of those parking spaces are located, those visitor parking spaces. So again, you can see parallel spaces here, and then head-in spaces here, and a couple more down here. So 24 total visitor spaces. This also highlights well the rain gardens and our water quality areas and detention areas that provide some additional buffer. And then it also gives a good representation of the street presence of these townhomes directly adjacent to East Street, which is similar to what's at Clementine Commons, just south of this particular proposal. There's a 5,200 square foot common open space proposed, and that's set aside as Outlot B. You can see it outlined in blue there. There are 12 townhomes whose primary entrances directly abut that open space. Again, similar design to the south at Clementine Commons. And then outlots D and F, which are highlighted, are again those detention areas. Detention is required as part of this development. We also require water quality here. So you can see the retaining wall design with a native seed mix. And again, that does act as a landscape buffer for those single family units on the north and south side. Traffic impact study was submitted for the development. And you can see the 2025 predicted traffic conditions table shown here. It does show that the impact at the intersections are predicted to maintain a level of service of C or better. And just as a reference, most urban intersections have a minimum level of service of D. So again, a level C or better, with other intersections directly adjacent operating at higher than that level C. So overall, the report found that the proposed units will have minimal impact to nearby intersections. Moving on to some details about the final plat here. Again, the applicant is proposing the fee in lieu option to satisfy the inclusionary housing requirement. Again, that would be considered for approval at City Council by public hearing. This was the inclusionary housing fee in lieu request was part of the original preliminary application that was presented to the Planning Commission and City Council. Again, recommended for approval and approved by City Council. The applicant is requesting a number of zoning waivers from the RM zone district standards, and they're presented in this table that's on the screen at the moment. Essentially, all lots the applicant is requesting waivers for all lots, for lot coverage, setback, side interior setbacks. Certain lots do meet rear setback and height requirements. The intent of the RM zone district, it's worth noting that this is in the residential medium zone district. The intent of the residential medium zone district is to permit multifamily development at duplex and townhouse densities. That is the intent of the district. And so in making this request, staff feel that the applicant is satisfying that intent by reducing overall lot sizes. If we were to apply standard RM sizes here that have a minimum lot size of 7,000 square feet, we'd have much larger lots, much larger homes, less opportunity for housing at this particular site. So in requesting the waiver, there's opportunity for more open space on the site and then also more visitor parking. It's also, again, more in line with the intent of the RM district standards. This site is also located in the urban neighborhood, future land use as identified by the comprehensive plan. And so staff feel that the waiver requests are reasonable when implementing the intent of the RM district and then also considering the future land use considered by the comprehensive plan as well. Here's an example of the height waiver. So these are one of the waivers include requests for a height waiver. Standard heights are 35 feet. Heights are the rule of measurement for a height is taken as an average of the overall site directly adjacent to the structure. You can see that one of the max heights proposed here are 39 feet, roughly 39 feet. This would accommodate a gable roof form. I would say that our ordinance doesn't necessarily contemplate a gabled form here. This is also similar to what was approved at Clementine Commons just to the south. You can see the graphic shows a 37.6 foot height was approved at Clementine Commons. So this would allow for a more consistent development pattern along East Street, and then also, again, allow for that gabled roof form. The analysis of the final plat, again, the applicant is requesting those modifications that we discussed previously. And they need to show that the review criteria are satisfied in the subdivision ordinance for modification to an actual subdivision. So again, based on what was discussed, the conflict between subdivision ordinance, the zoning ordinance, the intent of the RM zone district, the comprehensive plan, staff feel that the modification will result in a development pattern that is similar to existing nearby developments, and that will, again, assist in implementing the comprehensive plan and is more in line with the intent of the overall RM zone district standards. Analysis of the final plat continued. Again, staff found that the final plat complies with Title 16, which is the subdivision ordinance of the Louisville Municipal Code. And the fee in lieu option has been pursued by the applicant for public land dedication. And again, staff feel that that is appropriate based on the number of open space and parks in the direct vicinity. And then also it complies with the comprehensive plan and supports an urban development pattern. In analyzing the final PUD, staff find that the final PUD is in conformance with section 1728-120 of the municipal code with the granted or requested waivers from the RM zone district standards. Again, the subject property has an urban and neighborhood designation in the comprehensive plan's future land use framework and is consistent with the characteristics in these sections. And the proposal is consistent with the policies in the comprehensive plan's neighborhood and housing framework, specifically principles NH4 and NH5, which speak to density, housing availability, and then again supporting that urban framework. And so based on the information presented, staff recommend approval of Resolution 8, Series 2024, recommending approval of a final subdivision plat, a final preliminary planned unit development for 15 single-family homes and 21 townhome units at 421 and 533 East Street. And with that, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Senior Planner Post, thank you. Any questions at this point?
Can you, for the record and for information purposes, could you describe what the pedestrian access is to this lot? Is there a sidewalk of, I don't know what the right terminology is, but adequate size on East Street? Or is it a standard width sidewalk on East Street leading up to this property?
It would be a standard detached sidewalk. I'd have to take a closer look at it, but it would be a minimum width of 5 feet. I believe the standard detached width is 6 feet. So you have a 6-foot sidewalk, and then there is a detachment that would include the tree lawn, and you can actually see the trees planted on the east side of the sidewalk, and you can see where these horizontal lines come in. That's the actual sidewalk. But our minimum would be 5. I'd have to double check with Public Works, but it may be up to 6 feet wide.
So in terms of access to downtown, it would be that sidewalk up to, I guess it's Pine Street that East Street intersects with.
Correct. Yep, it would be. And so then the sidewalk converts to an attached condition north of this site. So we would exact a detached condition requirement, right, where you have that buffer between the street and the sidewalk. But again, existing development patterns that are there are an attached condition where the gutter is directly attached to the street.
Okay.
And so then so is the railroad then on the west side,
Yeah.
right? So there wouldn't be any kind of way to get out on that side?
No. Yeah, no.
And I was thinking that, and just north of there, I think, is the restaurant. It's like the shopping center, sort of northeast of that. But then eventually you hit the parking lot for what was Casa Alegre.
Yep, correct.
Okay, so trying to visualize what that side looks like. I don't think there's any space for a. What I'm concerned about, you could probably tell, is pedestrian access, because we talk about open space, but it's near other parks, but there isn't really a good way to walk there. And from a young family's perspective, you know, the option is using the open space there, which is probably going to become a dog park, or you got to walk through a shopping center, over the tracks, across a busy intersection, maybe 2, depending on what playground you're going to. So it's really not great access. So from a pedestrian access perspective, this seems like a stretch, but I'm wondering if it seems more than just this development. There's because you have to get from there to the intersection, right? And so it doesn't seem like there's a way to account for that here. If there's no way to, you can't build a road if nothing connects to it, right?
Right. I would agree.
Okay.
Is this similar type to what like Clementine and Sunnyside in that area?
It
It's
is.
kind of similar, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Very, very similar.
When I looked through this, I couldn't really tell. Can you just highlight what the changes were, even though there were no significant changes?
Yes. So if you look at the single-family homes to the north, again, you can see the different types, and those are really highlighted by the footprints of the structure. And again, I'll let the applicant speak more to this. But again, I inherited this project, so I apologize if I don't have all the details correct. However, what I can say is that I believe the original orientation or layout of the single-family homes was type 1, type 2, type 1. And so as you see it now, it's type 1, type 2, type 2, type 1, type 2, type 2, type 2, type 1. And so that's where the difference lies. I do also believe that there was, the applicant had originally proposed a privacy fence on the west side of the site. I don't believe that's proposed anymore, but I'll let the applicant speak to that. We don't necessarily have a requirement that would require a privacy fence there. So the applicant can provide some additional details on that.
I have one question, and it just is about the housing fee. And I'm just curious. So the city council approved this. Do they wait until this final approval before they approve that granting of the fee in lieu of the construction of the affordable housing?
Well, I guess if, is your question in regard to actually collecting? the
Yeah, or
fee?
I'm just curious about the mechanics of how that works. I mean, did they approve it at the preliminary or initial stage?
They did approve the preliminary PUD, which included a request.
Okay.
Or the indication that the applicant was going to pursue the fee in lieu.
Okay.
And then obviously, the city council will, the upcoming hearing will be the final say.
Okay.
At that point, I would have to confirm with the rest of our department on when we actually collect that. I would imagine we would do that at the time of building permit application or prior to building permit issuance. It would-
Okay.
yeah.
I was just curious about how, if it gets approved at even the preliminary stage, or if it gets more formally approved at this final plat, would be more formally approved at the final plat stage. I guess that's maybe the answer. Okay. Okay. All right. Any more questions for staff? All right. Seeing none. Applicants, would you like to make a presentation?
I'm Paul Norquist from Design Practice out of Denver, and we are the design team. I'm just going to use Matt's.
Okay.
Since there was very little change to the project, just to make it easier. And Matt is correct. What the change to the project from when we presented previously was we've added one more of the type 2. And to note, the type 2 single family is designed as an aging in place home, so it has all of its living function on the main level and is fully accessible. The big change in design is when we finalized the grading over the last few months, we actually lowered the entry level of this building to make sure it's an accessible entry. So there are now 5 of those units. The ownership, in speaking with their sales group and sort of pre-marketing this project, there's been a strong positive reaction to having this housing typology available. So we added one more of those units on the north side and went from 4 to 5 and reduced one of the type 1 housing. We also then, on the west side of the site, we swapped the typology since we have a little angled property line right here. Having this longer house in this lot created a smaller yard, so we swapped the location of those two within the site. So that's the major change. And as Matt said, this was originally proposed as a full privacy fence. Right now it's proposed as a wired fence. The idea being is we were looking through the site and given that we have this 100-foot railroad easement, it'll just, instead of visually blocking that end of those drive lanes, the wired fence and the landscaping will just make it a little more visually porous coming through that way. So those are the main changes. I can talk a little bit about the pedestrian access that you were speaking about. Yeah, what is proposed is what the city standard is for detached sidewalk, tree lawn. So there is that, as Matt spoke, we'll have a dedication of land to make the right-of-way large enough to allow that to occur. Clementine has had to build up their similar infrastructure to the south. There is a small segment, I believe, between us and Clementine that does not have a detached sidewalk. And I believe the sidewalk in front of Sunnyside was probably under a different ordinance, so I think, I'm not positive, it may be an attached sidewalk in that location. But we do know that there's the Highway 42 revitalization project, and that there is talk of, on the east side of East Street, between East and Highway 42, redoing that section and extending the the public path that right now comes through the Clementine detention pond and up through the site. We've also left this outlot as common space with the idea that should Pine Street Plaza be redeveloped, there could be a pedestrian connection in this direction. So instead of including that land as part of this parcel, we're leaving that as outlot space. And that came from some previous discussions very early in this project when we were speaking with a potential owner of Pine Street about doing a common project. So it makes a lot of sense in the future, but obviously we don't have control of that site. So, and I guess the last thing is, I know most of you have seen this project. I'm not sure all of you have. But on the townhomes, the reason for the height waiver is the townhomes are designed where the in-townhome units initially were designed to allow for an ADU. So we had lifted up the floor plate of the first floor to get more light down into the basements of these spaces. They are still designed that way since the city does not have an ADU program at this point. They will be initially constructed as a single family unit, but they could easily be adapted to become a separate apartment unit under the ownership of the entire townhome. So whether for a child returning from college or service or just being able to rent, that in the future adaption is there. So each of these units have an exterior stair access, which would make the conversion, we're trying to simplify it in the future should it be allowed. And that was our original proposal very, very early in this process, was those 12 units for the affordable housing fee. But since the ADUs weren't allowed and it changed the density and a number of factors came involved, so we're trying to keep that option open in the future. Hence, it pushes the buildings up and we end up above the 36 feet with the, as Matt said, with the gable roof form. So.
Yes.
Could you point to the units that would have the potential apartments?
Yeah, so they're the end units of each of the townhome types. And if I go, I think forward in Matt's, yep. So it'd be these gabled form townhome units. They each have this handrail is for a little stair that goes down on the outside of the unit to that lower level. And then if I go back to I don't know if I can zoom in. Can I zoom in on this, Matt? It's hard to tell right here, but there is a small pedestrian access to that landing, so that you would have your own entrance point at that point.
And I was asking in part because of the proximity to the visitor parking.
Yeah, so the visitor parking then is, right along those street edges. And so those well, in this case, that little zone right there looks like a bunch of straight lines. That's the stair going down.
Okay.
So we have parking here, parking along here, parking back here, and parking here. So they would all be fairly adjacent to those units. The only place where we don't is right on this zone for this particular unit, but.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? I have one, maybe just since we were going back in time a little bit, in case there are members here that weren't part of that discussion and ultimately approval last fall. Could you just remind us a little bit about why you've chosen the single-family and townhome model versus sort of, again, what staff sort of described as this zone district sort of being contemplated for larger buildings and having units within the larger buildings? Do you mind sharing that? And I don't remember if we talked about that last time, but I'm thinking we did a little bit, so, yeah.
Yeah, probably a little bit. I can have Jesse talk a little bit about there was an initial concept of doing either an apartment or a condo building.
Okay.
at 34 units, what the density allows, it didn't make a lot of sense.
Okay,
So we were asking, I believe originally talking about asking for a density waiver.
okay, okay.
There's a number of factors I think involved in general when it comes to these types of projects. One is parking requirements, to density, what it's going to do to the roads, fee and lieu, these sort of items that come
Yeah.
into effect. So a lot of it's economics.
Sure. Yeah,
In this particular project, we could have gone to a tuck under townhome, which is your very typical townhome unit. But I think the idea was to offer something, a little more variety
okay,
downtown.
yeah,
So the smaller single-family footprints, one of the big things that when we originally talked about this project was having some aging-in-place units, which are those type 2 single families. And then this townhome unit, we've actually done a couple of this buildings with this typology, and it's worked really well. People that own them really liked them, in either being able to supplement their, help pay for their mortgage by leasing out the lower level, or to house relatives or kids that are, finished school and not quite out on their own yet. But
okay,
so we, I think it's really valuable.
okay. That's helpful.
I don't know if
Yeah,
Jesse would like a little.
I'm Jesse Truman. I represent the ownership group on this. So to kind of piggyback off of what he was saying, and I think to clarify your question, you sounded like if we strictly adhere to all of the, what I would say also inconsistencies of all the plans, I think we would have been stuck with. We did model this out actually in one of the meetings, but I think we would have been stuck with like 10 single-family homes in a cul-de-sac, and the economics. There was kind of 3 points. The economics didn't work very well. We would have had, 10 $3 million homes, and which didn't feel right, and and then the third piece of it too is that everyone has been begging for more affordable housing, and this is our answer for that. So.
okay. No, appreciate that.
Kind of just on the same note, what is your sort of target market consumer for these? Like, what kind of buyer are you hoping to? What are you envisioning? I mean, obviously anybody can buy anything, but like, what are you thinking this is going to attract? What kind of buyer?
I think that we're kind of shooting for a wide variety. We really are the lot, the type 2 units, or I don't know if it's type 1 or 2, but the ones that have the main level living are obviously very targeted towards, empty nesters. And the townhomes, I think will bring a mixture of young families and empty nesters that don't mind stairs. So yeah, we really think there'll be a wide variety, and then we are hopeful that the end unit townhomes, the 12 that have the exterior staircases, will provide affordable options for multi-generational families, or friends of the family, or if they ever pass ADUs, that's going to provide 12 excellent units that'll be very affordable.
All right, any more questions for the applicant? All right, oh, yep, one more.
One more, maybe more of a question for city staff, and I think the answer is no, but just for the sake of due diligence. So the existing and historic mines that were in Louisville, those are all on the west side of the railroad. We're not building this on top of an old mine, are we?
Well, we do have mining activity under half of the site.
Is that a cause for concern given the density that we've proposed?
No, the mine depth there, the minimum mine depth is about 150 feet, and I believe we have a map of it, and I don't know what slide it's on which presentation. It's somewhere, but they ran like 150 to 250. And so the geotech has taken that into account in their soils analysis and testing.
And I'm not a geotech, but just there's nothing there now. There hasn't been, and now we're building a lot of stuff. So I just want to make sure that's been considered with accurate records of what we think the soil is doing and where we think the mine shafts are.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Now we're going to move to the part of the meeting where we open this up to the public. And let's see, it doesn't look like we have anybody here in the room that would like to speak on this item. And for the attendees that we have online, if you could let us know if you'd like to speak on this item. And use the raise hand function, and we'll see if we get anybody. Nope. All right. All right. So we move very quickly then to a part of the meeting where you now have the applicant. You have an opportunity to add any kind of closing statement. Okay. And now we'll move to staff, if there are any closing comments from staff. No.
I just want to answer your question, Commissioner Mahaley, about the detached sidewalk. It is 5 feet, and then the tree lawn is 8 feet, and then the existing sidewalk conditions, both north and south of the property, are again that attached condition. So Sunnyside, just south, is attached. It gets to detach the Clementine Commons, and then again north of the site, it's attached all the way up around East Street where it curves. So.
Great. All right. So, no other comments from staff at this point? Okay. All right. I will now close the public hearing, and the planning commissioners will deliberate on the evidence presented. During deliberations, no further public comment or other testimony or evidence will be received. Who would like to speak first on this? Any takers? Any?
Sure, I'll do it.
Please.
Why not?
Yeah. Commissioner Hunt.
I was not here for the last presentation, so I'm coming a little bit fresh to this, but I appreciate the creativity and the varying housing types here, and I think from what has been presented here that it seems to comport with the neighborhood and sort of the urban environment, and I think will be an improvement on what is there currently. So I think I'll be in favor of this.
All right. Thank you. Anybody else want to go? Want to speak to the item? Go ahead.
Sure.
Commissioner Haley.
I've been conflicted on this, if I'm being honest. So I don't think pedestrian access is great, but I acknowledge that it's not all on this unit and its development, because as I said, it really is dependent upon, up to this property having adequate pedestrian access, and the same applies for cycle access of people who wanted to commute on bicycle. So I'm not crazy about that, and so because of that, I disagree with the thought and rationale that this has, it's close to other parks, so because of that, you need less space here. Because because of what I said before, if you're going to walk to a playground with a young kid, you got to get through a busy shopping center. And although there is a sidewalk there, I'm concerned where East Street meets Pine. You have cars coming in and going both directions. Between that, the railroad, and the major intersections to get to a playground, if I'm a young family, chances are I'm driving to the park. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think that's great, especially if you're downtown. I think we, if this passes, I think we need to make it a priority to improve pedestrian access to this side of the tracks for this development, Clementine and possibly others. But because of that, and because it doesn't have great access now, I respectfully, I probably wouldn't have agreed to the less open space on the plat. And so I'm conflicted because I'm not sure if that's rationale for me to vote no now, because it has passed before, and and in good faith they've put their money into developing the past concept. But at the same time, it also does address things I'm concerned about, mainly affordable housing. And also this, I think, would be great for downtown in terms of injecting a customer base to downtown. So I've been conflicted. I'm still not happy with the pedestrian access. I think that's a team approach here. It's not just this. And I am very happy that we have the allocation for a future connection if there is pedestrian access. I think that's a great decision. Thank you. But I'm still stuck on the availability of space there. Again, this would be a challenging place to live as a young family. That the open space that is there, everyone who has a dog in that facility is going to use that, for when their dog has to go out and use the restroom. So I'm not sure that's much of a space for children to play. So that's the main basis of my concern. But not to be entirely negative, I agree. I'm really happy with the diversity of type and architecture. I think that's great. I think that will help reduce the thought of sprawl. I liked the concepts. So I think I appreciate the level of thought that's gone into that there. And like I said, it addresses some of the needs that I think would be still a net gain positive to the community, even though the access to open space and pedestrian is not quite in line with what we're trying to achieve in terms of, walking friendly, commuter friendly. So, sorry, mixed bag for me.
Yeah, great observations. I was just going to add that it is interesting to think that the community park is not that far away from here. It's just on the other side of the railroad
Yeah.
tracks, and some of us, and some of us on the commission have a sense of how challenging it can be sometimes to deal with railroads. And so it does. I appreciate your observations, and maybe this is something where the city could look at.
I'm envisioning parents with a stroller, and I'd probably just take the car.
Right.
Right. As currently, which again is not all on this property. I think there's some work to do.
Yeah.
As a planning commission on the rest of the development in the area.
Yeah. Good observations. Appreciate that. Anybody over here want to speak to the item? Yeah. Commissioner Choi.
Taking another look at this, maybe with 9 months of retrospection, I actually saw more. I saw more in here that I liked than I did last time. I do appreciate the availability of more housing stock in the city, and I think you guys have done a good job of addressing as much diversity as you can with the limitations of the size of the lots and the overall location. I think it is worth noting that while it might be an attractive spot, potentially for some dogs, each house does have its own backyard, and then the two detention ponds as well, if people were to use those. So that's not necessarily as much of a concern for me. I had other concerns when we saw this last year, but again, looking back from what it was to what it is now and thinking about what the benefits are, I do think that it's a overall good development still, and looking at the waivers, the limited waivers that are being requested, I think they're in line with the overall development, so I like it.
Yeah. Commissioner Baskin.
I'm in support of the project in that the value of adding a diverse housing stock that's fairly dense to the city, I think, will be an asset. It is a drag that the pedestrian connectivity it's a case of locating in an existing city where not all the infrastructure is in place. I think it's good that we're thinking about that. I was at Clementine after work one day, and I couldn't believe the number of people that were coming out with their dogs and socializing with each other. It was really quite wonderful to see neighbors talking to neighbors. So I think there can be strength in having a common area, which is what that's intended to be. So I will be voting in support of the project.
Thank you. And I will be too. I did last fall. And for many of the reasons that my fellow commissioners have just expressed, I'm in support of this as well. So with that, is there a motion?
I'll move to approve. I gotta say it now. Final planned unit development and final plat for 421 and 533 East Street, Resolution 8.
Thank you. Series
2024. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you.
Second.
All right. Thank you. We have a motion and a second, and we will take a roll call vote.
Commissioner Mahaley.
Yeah. Yes.
Commissioner Hunt.
Yes.
Commissioner Basket.
Yes.
Commissioner Choi.
Yes.
Vice Chair Mullane.
Yes. Whoops. The motion passes. Thank you. Good luck at City Council. All right. Let's see. We have one more item of new business. Looks like it's an informational item on the comprehensive plan, sort of an update on project status.
Yes, so Jeff isn't here, but he just asked me to let you know that there is no presentation, but and you can take it as informational. But if you do have questions or comments that you want, I can record them. If I have answers, I can provide them, and if not, I'll just let Jeff know. So, however you want to handle it. If you do have questions or things you want me to take notes on, I can.
I just have one question. Can you remind me where we're at with sort of this next level of public engagement? Yeah. Do you have some information on that?
A
No?
question that I know the answer to.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so that first round, which took place earlier this year, was really sort of like that broad vision and values questions. It was, I don't remember off the top of my head how many questions it was. It was like 10 to 15 in the survey. There was an open house, and it sort of was like the first pass at like the broadest sort of questions for the comp plan. Out of that came a couple of different things, including some actual map work that'll kind of show up again in engagement window 2. But right now we're focusing in engagement window 1.5, which was, I think, initially supposed to be internal, and then unfortunately got external, and now we're just talking in this really weird way. But that is kind of trying to hone in a little bit more on what some of those vision and values meant.
Yeah,
So we got some really great feedback, but it was stuff like, this is a welcoming community, or, you know, it's a small town. It's things like that, which gives us some idea of what people might be interested in, but not really like a concrete idea. And so this particular window that we're in right now for this month is literally asking people, okay, so what does that mean, actually? And so those are what the engagement, the survey online, and then also the events that we're hosting.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other questions about comp plan from commissioners? Yeah.
Not a question, but I am looking forward to seeing staff and consultants. It's staff-driven, this next collection of input, isn't it? And you're going to all the events downtown.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So thank you for that reminder. So one of the things that is in that memo is just to let you all know that please tell the people that you know in your life and advocate for people to come and talk to us or to go online. That's probably the easiest thing to do if you're talking to somebody. But yes, so we went to we were at Bike to Work Day, which was actually really great. I don't remember I think it was like maybe 60-ish people that we talked to, like actually had engagement with, which is pretty high actually. And then tomorrow night we'll be at Street Fair.
Nice.
So come see us if you're coming down there. And let's see, and then next week we have, there's a summer concert series on Thursday. We'll be at that. And then we have 2, so those are kind of like the really broad, we want to get more people, more input kind of events. Then we also have these 2 events that are really more targeted towards some of the groups that we didn't hear from the first time. And so they're basically, and we're testing it out a little bit to see how it'll work, but they're basically events near multifamily developments and trailheads near there, so that we can kind of say like, hey, have you heard about the comp plan? Because we didn't hear a lot from renters or folks living in multifamily buildings, as of course mostly single family from that first round of engagement. So
That's great. Appreciate you all doing that. That's wonderful. All right. And so no more questions about comp plan. Thank you very much. Any planning commission comments? All right. Seeing none, staff. Oh, yep.
Just
Yeah,
a
please.
reminder, it was confusing at the last meeting. We had heard that there was going to be something led by the university on the McCaslin development next to Cinnabar, and they had the wrong date.
Oh, okay.
I was one of a handful of people that showed up at the rec center, and they were like, what? Oh, it's next month. So I don't know how, I hope that the university will do a better job of getting the word out. I believe it is July 25th is when that is, but
Okay.
if anybody picks up on that, maybe we can get the word out a little bit better on that.
Okay. Thank
Not
you.
a city event, it's a university event, I recognize that, but there's synergy in communication.
Yeah. Good one. All right. So staff comments? Anything? Nope. All right. And looking at Next month, at this point, we don't have any items? Is that what I see in the, yeah?
I think that we will have probably at least one,
Okay,
and I'm guessing two, by the way, that Matt is nodding. So
Okay.
he and I probably both have something at least.
all right, sounds good. All right, with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
All right,
Second.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you.